The new season of Alone in the Wilderness has kicked off and the rules are totally different. Participants aren't solo anymore, they're paired up. Honestly, they should rename it Wilderness Vacation. The big twist? Fan favorite Camilla is back. Will she wow us again? The pairings are diverse, a father-daughter duo, a couple, and even a same-sex pair. This season's challenge is near Lake Vatn, outside the Arctic Circle in Norway. Just hearing the name gives you chills. But here's the kicker, the pairs arrive separately. They arrive separately at the destination. One person is taken directly there, while the other has to navigate using a map and compass to find their partner. The rules are bizarre, clearly designed to mess with the contestants. Danny, who came with her boyfriend, is the first to arrive. She looks like she wants to cry. Seriously, if you want to cry, do it at home. This is a show for tough guys and gals. The first to arrive has to set up the shelter, but with her boyfriend Rick not there, Danny is at a loss. She probably just wants to sit down and snack on some sunflower seeds while waiting for him. Meanwhile, Rick is exhausted and out of breath. The mosquitoes here are relentless. Stop for a second and you're swarmed. The distance between them is huge, probably a 2-day trek. For those who have to walk to the destination, it's a massive challenge. If they can't find their teammate, they're out of the game and sent home to watch TV. They have to do whatever it takes to find each other. Danny, lugging a huge bag of gear, plans to set up a temporary shelter at the destination. The second contestant to appear is Martha, paired with Camilla, who I know very well. That eccentric woman who carves wood for her little brother every day. But I have to admit, we'll miss her bread. Camilla just got the map, but instead of heading out to find her partner, she's sitting on the ground acting all crazy. Both she and Martha seem to be trying to fight magic with magic. They're colleagues from a farm, where they auction vegetables online. Their common trait? Going nuts together. In no time, Camilla has already figured out how to survive here. Meanwhile, Emil is on his way to find his partner, arriving in the Norwegian wilderness for the first time. Arriving in the Norwegian wilderness, Emil is awestruck by the scenery. Meanwhile, Lassie has already reached the destination and is living alone, preparing a temporary shelter in the strong wind while waiting for Emil. Simply pitching a tent wouldn't suffice, they needed wooden beams to secure it. With scarce wood resources, building a proper shelter later could be tough. Emil and Lassie, once roommates, now do everything together. You get the drift. After hours of walking, Emil finally found water on a hill and eagerly drank. Meanwhile, Martha stumbled upon a massive blueberry patch, enough to last until the show goes bust. With a nearby water source, she planned to set up a temporary shelter there. This is us. 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 After Rick climbed the hill, he found the scenery to be stunning, and at that moment, he felt the view was more important than his girlfriend. Fortunately, Danny had already started planning to build a shelter. A temporary shelter just needs to keep out the wind and rain. If you can't even do that, then forget about winning. Once the tent is set up, you can tidy up inside and sleep. Emil had been walking for several hours and found that hiking in the mountains took much longer than expected, making it quite a physical challenge for him. Meanwhile, Lassie was planning to gather more firewood. He planned to build a small log cabin shelter with Emil. Whether it's hiking or building, it's all physically demanding. All the contestants who have arrived are busy setting up shelters, which is normal. At least no one is just sitting around. After setting up her shelter, Danny stood by the lake drinking water. She felt an urge to shout but felt embarrassed being in a foreign country. I was puzzled, was there a group of people nearby watching her? In the evening, the wind here is very strong. Danny plans to gather some berries for dinner, with a vast lake behind her. If it were me, I would have set up a fishing net by now. Are berries tastier than grilled fish? Meanwhile, Rick is still navigating with his compass, having been on the move all day. A river blocks Rick's path. This isn't just any river, it's fast-flowing with steep cliffs, making it even more dangerous. Although the water looks shallow, the riverbed is full of large rocks, uneven and treacherous. One wrong step and you could end up seriously injured. The water is glacier melt, so it's ice cold. But with his girlfriend on the other side, Rick has to pick between safety and love. Clearly, he chooses love and decides to cross the river. Otherwise, they might have broken up by the end of the first season. The camera is still rolling, so he better hurry back. Meanwhile, Lassie sets up a fishing net, attaching it to buoys and placing it near a large tree by the lake where the water is deeper and the chances of catching fish are higher. He throws the net far out and waits. Martha also has a fishing plan. Martha plans to use a tree branch as a fishing rod, hoping to grill the fish right after catching them. Fingers crossed they get a bite. After crossing the river, Rick sets up a temporary shelter. I was surprised to see Martha looking much better than Camilla when she returned. Meanwhile, Camilla is also setting up her shelter and, despite walking all day, isn't complaining about being tired. Right now, Rick, Camilla, and Emil are all having a tough time. After a day of travel, they reached their destination by midnight. Rick woke up to find someone standing in front of him, which scared him. He turned on his flashlight and realized it was just his pants. It started raining heavily in the middle of the night with strong winds, making it too cold to sleep. On the third day, Emil woke up early and planned his route for the day. He estimated it would take another day to reach Lassie, meaning his partner would have to go hungry for at least 3 days. Meanwhile, Lassie also woke up, hoping Emil would arrive soon so they could plan better. Lassie then headed to the lake to check his fishing nets. As he approached, he noticed something glinting in the water. Pulling up the net, he discovered it was packed with fish, a fantastic early win. Even though the fish were small, there were plenty enough to feed 2 people. Lassie quickly started a fire to make fish soup. Meanwhile, Martha checked her fishing setup and caught a fish too. Why doesn't she use a net like Lassie? It's a small fish, but still a decent breakfast. Camilla woke up and had a glass of water. What's with the white cloth in front of her pants? Camilla was worried about Martha, but if she knew Martha was prepping fish, she might change her tune. Camilla gathered wild veggies and mushrooms. Cooking fish soup together will make for a hearty breakfast. Martha thinks Camilla should be arriving soon and sends out a signal only they can understand, hoping Camilla hears it. Rick wakes up early and starts his journey, walking for several hours despite the unmelted snow on the mountain. But now he feels incredibly hot. Danny, trying to signal Rick about his location, decides to light a fire to create smoke, but then suddenly starts shouting for some reason. Maybe he thinks shouting is more effective than smoke. Lassie woke up with a headache, but after having some fish soup, he felt much better. Perhaps this is just the city folks' reaction to the wilderness. The fish soup might not taste great, but it's the best food they can get out here, so they have to eat it. It's made with very clean snow water, so it should be good no matter the time or meal. Meanwhile, Danny is stuck in the shelter, bored out of her mind with nothing to do but wait. Rick is losing it from the journey and likely won't reach her by tomorrow, so he sets up a temporary shelter by the lake. Camilla, on the other hand, has made it to Martha's Bay. They're still a bit apart, but at least she won't spend the night alone. Martha, on the other hand, thinks that if Camilla doesn't arrive within the hour, she probably won't make it at all. During that hour, she keeps sending signals to Camilla, and thankfully, Camilla responds. Using this method to locate each other is baffling, but despite their silliness, they are the first pair to reunite. I have to admit, Camilla is quite the impressive girl. By the 4th day, Danny hasn't eaten for several days. Even with fishing hooks and nets, someone with low skills might still starve. At this point, she's starting to waver, hoping Rick will arrive soon. Otherwise, she might quit the competition before he even gets there. Carrying dozens of pounds of gear for days is exhausting. While having a partner means you're not alone, it can also be incredibly tiring. Rick guesses he might reach Danny's location tonight, and the thought of camping in the wilderness together gives him a burst of energy. Early in the morning, Camilla took Martha to the lake to set up fishing nets. They chose a prime spot where the water was fast-flowing, hoping for a big catch. Camilla, holding 2 stones and some grass, told Martha she had once caught a lot of fish with these treasures, attributing her body fat to eating fish. She planned to do the same this time, believing that the key to catching fish wasn't the net but her grass and stone setup. They chatted by the lake for hours, leaving me speechless. No doubt, these two are crazy. Hours later, they finally remembered to set up the fishing nets. After setting them up, they sat by the lake, enjoying the view. Meanwhile, Emil was still on his way, knowing Lassie was good at fishing and hoping he'd catch plenty for them to eat. Lassie, after eating his fill, was busy building a shelter, planning to surprise Emil. While building the shelter, Lassie also planned where to place the bed. Constructing a wooden shelter in this tree-scarce environment was challenging. Fortunately, Lassie was handy. After walking all day, the terrain was tough, full of rocks and puddles, and Emil complained as he walked. By then, Lassie had finished the shelter's framework and heard Emil's call. Finally, Emil and Lassie reunited, and Lassie was moved to tears. Though it had only been a few days, it felt like 1,000 years. Lassie showed Emil around and saved 2 fish for him, making for an exciting reunion. Together, they quickly completed the shelter, making rapid progress. Rick was the only one yet to meet his partner, but he felt close to Danny. He walked and shouted, "Danny!" No surprise, everyone found their partners, and the real wilderness survival would begin in the next episode. Can't wait for the next episode's update. New season of Alone in the Wilderness is here, now with pairs of contestants in a less tough format. This is the easiest wilderness survival I've ever seen. Using just a fishing net, they have a constant supply of grilled fish. More contestants show up, with Anna being the 4th team. The moment she landed, her hands shook with excitement and she started crying right away, which wasn't a great start. However, she and her boyfriend teamed up to face the wilderness. Once she landed, Anna began following the map. She searched for Bean, who had just arrived, his hands shaking with nerves. They might not be mentally tough. The mountains are already snowy, and in a few weeks, winter will set in. Bean noticed the terrain here is uneven, so he decided to find a higher spot to build a shelter. Bean built a basic shelter from wood, intending to upgrade it when Anna arrived. It just needed to block the wind and rain. While there's still time, he wanted to make some fishing devices. The 5th contestant, Carl, appeared. As soon as he got off the boat, he couldn't wait to shoo the crew away. He was eager to be alone right away. Carl joined the competition with his son but soon faced his first issue. Each contestant has to record themselves with a camera, but using these devices is a bit challenging for an old man. At this moment, Carl really hoped Mark would arrive soon. Mark started hiking from another location, and before they met, Carl began building a temporary shelter. Although he wasn't good with the camera equipment, his tent shelter looked quite perfect. The 6th team, Victor and Casper, also appeared. Victor decided to look for Casper. When Casper arrived, he first explored the area. He felt very good about the environment here. Now, he needed to quickly build a temporary shelter. Victor was hurrying along the way, picking and eating cranberries he found on the ground. Casper and Victor are brothers. They joined the competition to win the prize money to get married. After Carl finished building the shelter, he noticed the wind was really strong and used grass to seal the gaps at the tent's base to keep it from being too drafty at night. Otherwise, a night here would surely cause rheumatism. Once the shelter was done, Carl headed to the shore to sunbathe. With plenty of time, why not fish now instead of waiting until you're starving? Carl just wanted to wait for his son to arrive so they could work together. The father and son love having barbecues outside at home. Their outdoor experience makes them confident in this competition. If they win, the son can fulfill his dream of marriage and success. Right now, Mark is on his way to meet Carl. The trails are hard to follow, and there's still quite a distance ahead. Anna is waiting for her boyfriend to show up. Feeling extremely thirsty, he hears the sound of a waterfall a few kilometers away and decides to find some fresh water to drink. Victor is choosing the best route, debating whether to follow the coast or the mountain ridge. Usually glued to his phone 24/7, he now feels incredibly bored. To pass the time, he meditates, but it only makes him feel even more bored. If I were him, I'd start fishing immediately. The mosquitoes are so bad that long sleeves are useless. Victor checks the map and compass. After confirming the direction, he continues on. Mark is also dealing with mosquito troubles. Just walking around, you can get swarmed by mosquitoes. If people didn't see this, they'd think wilderness survival is a breeze. In reality, mosquito attacks in these deserted areas are terrifying. Mark's shoes are falling apart from all the walking. The difficulty almost brings him to tears. Anna finally finds a water source. It must be meltwater from the snow. Anna gulps it down immediately, ignoring safety concerns just to quench her thirst. Mark opts to camp here for the night. They can't make it to the meeting point in one day, so they have to stay put and continue tomorrow. Victor also sets up a temporary shelter. The journey is much harder than he expected. He covered some distance today. Now his legs are aching from a day of hill climbing, with nothing but grasslands in sight. He hopes tomorrow's path will be easier. Victor places a plate outside, hoping to collect rainwater for drinking. Lying in the shelter at night, all he can think about are chicken legs and bacon. On the 3rd day, Mark wakes up feeling very damp. After trekking all day yesterday, his shoes have chafed his legs, but he has to keep moving today. Carl wakes up and boils water. He also catches a fish, which he grills for breakfast. Starting the day like this feels great. The shelter is near the coast. It almost feels like a vacation. Casper started fishing yesterday too, but had no luck. Now, he just wants to catch more fish before Victor arrives. Unable to catch fish with a rod, Casper opts to use a net instead. He wades into the chilly water to set it up. This spot's pretty narrow, so one net should cover it. Meanwhile, Anna's been panicking all morning. She saw a wild reindeer but can't hunt it. If she could, they'd have enough meat to last till the end. Today, she still needs to keep moving to meet up with Bean. Victor has reached a dead end here. A cliff is blocking her path. This is the worst luck. He feels completely defeated and even considered jumping off the cliff. Right now, he's utterly lost. The cliff on the other side is really steep. He almost fell several times. The drop here is about 10 meters. It looks really dangerous, and it actually is. Now Victor has two choices: either jump down and be done with it. He could turn back and find another route, but the slope behind him was too daunting to climb again. He regretted coming down to check it out in the first place. Casper is totally relaxed. After setting aside his desires, he comes here to act crazy. He's even wearing a pair of stockings underneath. Right now, he has no clue his brothers hit rock bottom. Fingers crossed he doesn't get some crushing news later. Mark sees a lot of paths here, each one a source of protein. Meanwhile, Carl's fish isn't done cooking yet. If Mark shows up now, they can share the grilled fish. As he drinks water, he hears someone shouting in the jungle. It turned out to be his son. Carl finally reunited with his son, Mark. Carl showed him the grilled fish. He caught 14 fish, but Mark was too exhausted to care and just collapsed. Several fish were already grilling on the pan. The big fish was grilled perfectly. With such a great catch right away, I've never seen contestants eat this well so early on. The father and son sit on the ground, enjoying the delicious grilled fish. The aroma is incredible. Carl nods at Mark in approval. Victor reached the mountain's peak, utterly exhausted. "I thought this Martin would jump off the cliff," he said. He realized the mountain was too tough. His legs ached so much he couldn't walk anymore. Meanwhile, Casper had been waiting in the shelter. Hoping his brother would arrive soon, he believed they could survive by fishing. Victor chose to stay put and set up a shelter for the night. He opts to set up a nearby shelter and rest for the night. To boost his mood, he starts talking to himself like a madman. Bean grilled fish in the shelter, waiting for Anna, who was still on her way. He guessed that Bean must be nearby, his face swollen from mosquito bites. Bean hoped Anna would arrive today. But Anna had already set up her tent to rest. Maybe she was too tired from walking and planned to continue tomorrow. Casper was carving wood at the shelter, shouting Victor's name, hoping he was close enough to hear. But Victor was busy building a shelter, planning to rest for the night and continue the journey tomorrow, singing cheerfully as he worked. Meanwhile, others were so tired they crashed before dark. On day 4, Anna packed up early to keep moving. She encountered a river she needed to cross. The water was icy and fast, but fortunately, it was shallow. Bean had just woken up, saying he slept well and felt great, while Anna was feeling quite desperate. Carl and Mark had started building a permanent shelter, using wood to frame it. It seemed they were building an A-frame shelter, securing branches to the frame for support and covering it with a waterproof tarp. Working together, they swiftly built the shelter and weighed down the tarp with branches. They wrapped up the shelter today but had no luck with fishing. Having fish would have made it perfect, but it was still a good day overall. The father and son were laughing and chatting. Casper had set up a fishing net the day before and went to check it, hoping for a catch. He pulled it up. Sure enough, he caught a small fish. To his surprise, as he kept pulling, there were more fish. My goodness, there were so many fish. They caught so many fish their hands ached. The net held 9 fish. I briefly wondered if they were surviving or vacationing. Casper, by the shore, was cleaning the fish, amazed at his big haul. It was his first time fishing, and he couldn't believe his luck. He was eager to share this joy with Victor. Meanwhile, Victor was sitting by the shore. His feet ached from days of walking, and even touching them hurt. He soaked them in icy water to ease the pain. After soaking his feet, he felt much better. Now he wanted to reach Casper soon and have a good rest. Anna was still on the move, calling out for Bean. Bean, in the shelter, heard her voice. He followed her voice and they reunited with a kiss. Naturally, they couldn't wait to get busy at the shelter. Meanwhile, Casper was organizing the fishing nets, thinking it's better than sitting around and going crazy. Suddenly, he broke down in tears. With no partner to console him, he envied Bean, who had his girlfriend for support. They could have fun and go on adventures together. If they last till the end, they might win the prize and travel the world. Anna tried Bean's grilled fish for the first time. She thought it was absolutely delicious. Victor still hasn't found his teammate and plans to spend another night in the wild. Building a shelter always exhausts him, but thankfully, his brother caught lots of fish. Now, even if he goes hungry for a few days, he has fish to eat. On day 5, Casper decided to build a wooden bed. While chopping wood, he suddenly needed to poop, maybe too much fish yesterday. Afterward, he got back to chopping. Victor and Casper are a bit overweight, so even light tasks tire them out. It's day 5, and Victor still hasn't spotted his brother. Carl and Mark have settled in well. They're not concerned about food or water unless something serious happens. They might even bankrupt the show. But then, disaster struck. Mark hurt his hand chopping wood. Carl quickly bandaged him. He quickly called for a doctor, who examined the wound and deemed it severe, warning it could get infected if they stayed in the wild. In the end, the show forced them to withdraw. It was quite unexpected, as they were doing so well. It's really a pity. According to the show's rules, if one person withdraws, the other must also leave. They were going to set up a new fishing spot today, but the accident caught them off guard. Carl regretted having to leave. However, he didn't complain, as the other person was his son. He didn't blame Mark. Instead, he chose to accept the outcome calmly. There are still 55 teams left. Victor sent out a signal nearby. Casper was thrilled to hear it because it was his brother's unique call. They finally found each other. Even though they were still far apart, they could reunite within a day. Casper's big moment was coming. The two brothers were so excited to reunite. Casper had prepared plenty of fish for Victor. This was destined to be a great start. What surprises await them next? Stay tuned for the next video update. This has to be the best wilderness retreat ever. Everyone has a fishing net and enjoys grilled fish daily. Some even brought their girlfriends for the adventure, spending their days just thinking about fooling around. It's already the 6th day. Rashi woke up early and said he slept well last night. The weather here is quite dry, and they have a great shelter. He began working on the shelter on his 2nd day there, and Emil joined him halfway through. Together, they made their own wooden beds inside. They even constructed a stone fireplace inside. This shelter is probably the best one so far. It blocks wind and rain, keeping them warm. Emil loves it, and they just want to relax and enjoy it now. However, Casper felt very cold last night. After all, sleeping in a tent on the ground isn't exactly comfortable. His feet were sticking out while Victor stayed buried in his sleeping bag, refusing to get up. People really are as different as night and day. Rashi's planning to add a chimney to the shelter. They cut an opening at the back and used stone slabs to make a smoke vent. Adding a chimney to the shelter is crucial. It allows them to burn wood in winter, staying warm without inhaling smoke. Today, Casper plans to take Victor to set up the fishing nets. Drawing from their first successful catch, Casper shared some fishing tips with Victor. Essentially, he said, "The water's freezing and I'm not going in. You have to take one for the team." Victor might be but he's no fool. He tied the fishing net's rope to a stone, but no matter how many times he threw it, it wouldn't go across. Throwing that stone seemed harder than losing face. Finally, with Casper's help, he got the fishing line across. Meanwhile, Danny decided to start fishing today. After all, it's been 6 days, and they must be hungry. They've been building the shelter these past few days. Seeing Danny's small knife left me speechless. Using a fruit knife to cut wood? Even a fool wouldn't do that. Only a wood. They finally managed to build the shelter. But they left a window of wisdom at the top. I still can't understand how these two ancient humans came up with that idea. Danny opted to go fishing today. Catching fish isn't the main goal, they have to kiss the fish. They praised the fish king all over the water. Their technique mirrors Victor's, as it's the only way to catch more fish. Setting up the net is tough. They took forever setting it up, but Danny's team only pulled in 2 tiny fish. Victor's spot has gentler waves, so fingers crossed for fish tomorrow. Camilla, our little workhorse, is just getting started. She feels the trees calling her, and every time she sees one, she wants to chop it down. Anyone who's chopped a lot knows this urge. Trees and people have spirits. Every time Camilla cuts down a tree, she has to pay her respects. Today, she and Martha plan to build a shelter. They're picking which trees to cut. Might as well choose the handsome one. Rashid finally rebuilt the stone fireplace. It looks great, but when they lit a fire, smoke poured out the door. The whole shelter was like a smokehouse. A wasted day. The chimney still spews smoke. Every time they go in, they have to hold their breath or they'll suffocate. What's up with this? Is it a success or a failure? They're planning to redesign the chimney. Camilla and Martha are watching a rainbow. It really is beautiful. Victor and his brother are doing nothing. They haven't even built a shelter. Danny and Rick are already eating fish. They made a pot of fish soup. After 6 days and 54 missed meals, they finally have something to eat. It's the 7th day. Anna woke up early to check the fish nets, hoping to catch something. Yesterday, Bjorn came up with a method. The net is in the middle, and they don't plan to reel it in every time. Instead, they use the method to check the net, which can also pull it into deeper water. Danny's starting to reel in his net, hoping to catch some fish. The net isn't even fully up yet. Danny sees fish, but they all seem small. Size doesn't matter. What matters is having fish to eat. Anna didn't catch any fish. Really disappointing. But their fishing device did catch one fish. What luck! Victor and his brother are finally starting to build a shelter. Sleeping in tents every night is freezing. But these two chubby guys have poor stamina. Every time they move a log, they need a half-hour break. Progress is slow, but it's better than doing nothing. Anna's also starting to build a shelter, but her pace is so slow that even Bjorn can't stand it. He brought his girlfriend to experience life, but they might break up. Thought Anna was dumb for using a fruit knife to chop trees. Didn't expect Casper to do the same. I knew this wouldn't be simple. Where there's Wulong, there must be feng shui. Danny and Rick plan to find a new fishing spot. The old spot only has small fish. They spend ages casting nets daily, but only catch a few tiny fish. It feels like they're just getting leftovers. Rick puts some wood in the water to keep his shoes dry. It doesn't matter if you get it or not. Danny's too scared to try it herself. She's afraid that this guy in front of her might hit her, even though it's not illegal. But as Rick's girlfriend, if she doesn't help him, no one else will. In the end, she tells Rick there's lots of food at home. They decide on a riverbank net like Jesper's group uses. They tie stones to the fishing net and throw it across. This idea was actually Danny's. Rick, being Danny's boyfriend, is not only strong but also eager to learn. Meanwhile, Lashy and Emil are preparing to build a chimney. Though they made a stone smoke vent yesterday, it didn't work well. They gathered lots of wood. They placed the wood at the smoke vent. Is this a chimney or a shelter for the chimney? I can't tell. Lashy and Emil sensed something was wrong. They debated chimney construction and finally chose stones. Victor and Jesper spent the whole day on the shelter's framework but didn't finish. They just stared at the wooden sticks, clueless about the next step. If it takes them this long to figure out the shelter, their survival skills might be lacking. Winning the marriage prize would be tough for them. Emil went to the river to gather stones, because their chimney had issues. Lashy was arranging the fireplace inside, which could double as an oven. The fireplace grew taller, resembling a pyramid. They lit the fire again, hoping to fix the smoke issue. The fire burned inside the shelter, but no smoke came out of the chimney. Obviously, it still wasn't working. No matter what they did with the chimney, the smoke problem persisted. On the 8th day, Danny and the others woke up early to cook breakfast. Even though it was just hot water and berries, it tasted pretty good. Their shelter doesn't have a fireplace right now. Why isn't there any smoke? The shelter is very warm. Rick, like a big building, lay in Danny's arms. Jesper and Victor got the shelter's frame done. They just need to add the waterproof cover now. But the top still needs work. While fixing it, the tough guy slipped and turned into a little princess. Luckily, Jesper caught Victor, otherwise, Victor wouldn't be a little princess but a fallen soldier. Rick is prepping to clean the shelter while Danny lounges inside. She sure treats her boyfriend like a workhorse. Danny believes that only by resting well can she help Rick, so her resting is equivalent to working. Martha and Camilla are getting ready to search for edible plants. They aim to find vegetarian food, not fish. Lassie headed to the beach for firewood and stumbled upon a bamboo pole. It could have been a great fishing rod, but it snapped in the middle. Lassie patched it up with some tape, then made a loop from a waterproof cloth to create a line holder. Soon, he had a fishing rod ready. Lassie couldn't wait to try it out. Anna and Ben also went to check the fish nets. They came up empty-handed yesterday and hoped to catch something today, but no luck again. They've been fishless for 8 days now. Clearly, a new approach is needed, so they relocated the nets to deeper waters. Fingers crossed for better luck this time. Victor and Jesper are moving today. They're exhausted and really need a warm place to sleep. They're putting up a seaside villa, perfect for fishing, but when they arrived, the shelter's skirt was flapping in the wind. Why not use branches to weigh it down? The pigs might freeze at night. Lassie enjoyed blueberry tea in the shelter. Even if they can't catch fish, there are lots of blueberries to eat. Do all foreign meadows have blueberries? The stove smoke is venting better now. The heated stones can warm them at night, but they have cracks. If they're not careful, the shelter might catch fire. They should fill the gaps with mud. It's day 9 now. Vasha and Camilla, those two crazies, were acting up in the shelter early in the morning. If they're so happy, they should go take a bath. They haven't bathed in ages and they reek. Danny woke up early, crying because she felt guilty for rejecting so many of Rick's ideas. The reason is she doesn't want Rick to get hurt. Staying in the shelter is the safest. This woman has a peculiar way of thinking. I bet she's some kind of martial arts whiz, really holding Rick back. Meanwhile, Camilla's busy upgrading the shelter. They're planning to cover the roof with branches to keep the rain out, but it seems like a huge task. Still, there's nothing else to do, so they might as well stay busy. Improving the shelter is beneficial for them too, but with such a big opening, won't it be cold at night? Apart from the big job of building the shelter, daily fishing is also time-consuming. Luckily, they all have fishing nets. Thanks to the fishing nets, they can almost eat fish every day. Today, they seem to have had a big catch. The fish aren't very big, but they can eat their fill. Jesper's group worked hard all day and can finally grill fish tonight. On day 10, Rashi's team chose to upgrade the fireplace. They built a giant fireplace outside the shelter where everyone else was working. Danny and Rick can't stop hugging and kissing. I'm at a loss for words. Danny and Rick have done nothing but have sex all day. While everyone else is eating fish, these two are always hungry. Fish or no fish, as long as they can kiss, they're happy. They did use branches to improve the shelter, which helps keep it warm. Oh my gosh, they're at it again, kissing non-stop. Meanwhile, Rashi's team finished the fireplace and gathered berries for tea. I've never seen such a big stone fireplace before. Martha also completed the shelter's roof and added a waterproof layer. These girls are really skilled. The shelter is coming together fast, looking just like a proper wilderness camp. On day 11, Casper woke up grumbling about the cold last night, likely due to the strong wind. The shelter's not well insulated, so they want to add a fireplace inside to keep it warmer at night. They may not know much, but their fireplace looks decent. Meanwhile, Danny and Rick plan to build 2 wooden beds today. This way, they can avoid sleeping on the ground. Meanwhile, Jesper's group is upgrading their fireplace using branches to build a chimney. In the short term, it might work, but a chimney made of branches definitely won't hold up. What surprises will they bring us next? Don't miss the next video update. This place is like a dream. Just toss a net into the water, and by the next day, you'll have 1,000 pounds of fish. They built a huge stone fireplace over 100 meters long to cook all the fish. While waiting for it to roast, they enjoyed some berry tea. It's the 12th day of Alone in the Wilderness, and 5 pairs of contestants are still in the game. Lassie woke up early to take in the view, saying he slept well after feasting on roasted fish last night. Emil joined him at the shore to brush his teeth, while Lassie checked the fishing nets, hoping for another big catch today. Sure enough, they caught quite a few fish. One net alone caught 5 fish, but each of them had brought a net. The second net also caught a good number of fish. In total, the last 2 nets brought in 10 fish, more than enough to eat for the day. Danny and Rick woke up early to check the nets they set up the day before. They caught a big fish, which made Rick jump with excitement. As they slowly pulled it in, the fish fought hard and eventually broke free. They were so frustrated they could have cried, especially since the net still had half a dead fish hanging on it. Meanwhile, others had caught so many fish they couldn't finish them all. Victor's team planned to build a door today, while Anna and Bean intended to construct a shelter. They started chopping wood on the 6th day, but progress was painfully slow. They could only chop down 3 trees a day, and at this rate, the show might go broke before they finish the shelter. Their design was good, with a fireplace, but the construction was painfully slow. They were spending almost all their time on it. Wouldn't it be smarter if one person fished while the other built? Victor's team lives by the shore, where the wind made it freezing at night. Their shelter didn't even have a proper chimney yet. Those 2 brothers are really something. Anna and Bean work every day but haven't had any meat, so their efficiency is dropping. You need food for energy. The most relaxed are these 2 oddballs, sunbathing all day. Camilla's out catching lions for Martha, believe it or not. There are still fish roasting in the shelter. Who knew Camilla could catch fish? She lives by eat well, go crazy, and avoids bothering her teammates when idle. Martha's quite the character too. Without her, Camilla wouldn't be so wild. Danny's busy fixing the fishing nets. We lost a big fish today, so it's destined to be a hungry day. Actually, it's not the fish's fault for having a strong survival instinct. It's just that they got so excited seeing the fish that they forgot to catch it. The ones doing the best right now are Lassie and Emil. Not only do they have a warm shelter and a huge stone fireplace, but they've also caught so many fish that they have something to eat almost every day. They're really living it up. Their fireplace is smartly designed to burn outside and heat the shelter. After grilled fish, they even have berries. It's the 13th day, and Bean plans to finish the log cabin shelter today. Just a beam on the roof and a waterproof cloth left. If Anna and Bean complete it, it'll be the coziest shelter here. Martha and Camilla are also close to finishing their shelter, just needing some final touches. Overall, it looks good. Rick's daily fish route got flooded, so he plans to relay the path by cutting down 3 trees. He asked Danny to try it, and Danny almost took a nasty fall. It got flooded. He had placed a lot of wood there before and now plans to relay the path by cutting down 3 trees and placing them over it. Rick asked Danny to give it a try. And he almost took a nasty fall. If he had actually fallen, they might have broken up. Lassie and Emil are making their shelter better by adding branches inside for insulation and covering it with moss outside for extra warmth and to hold down the waterproof cloth. Their shelter isn't a log cabin, but it's decent. After finishing, they took a day off since they have plenty of fish. Anna and Bean moved into their new, spacious shelter but haven't caught any food. If they don't catch fish soon, they might have to go home due to hunger. Casper sits by the shore, staring blankly. After nearly 2 weeks, he's getting bored. Victor feels the same, especially since they have plenty of fish. With full bellies and good sleep, boredom sets in even more. Martha and Camilla are frying fish for breakfast. Since catching fish is easy, most contestants have food and built shelters. They either eat, sleep, or find ways to entertain themselves. Danny and Rick are still worried about food. They're probably the worst off, but they're a couple. Even though they haven't had enough to eat, others have. Had enough to eat, but that doesn't mean others haven't. Camilla and Martha spend all day grilling fish, and the fish seems never ending. This kind of survival isn't difficult but really tests one's patience. On the 14th day, Anna got up early to brush her teeth. Even without toothpaste, she still pretended. Now they all have serious bad breath. Casper is outside picking berries, which taste much better than fish, even though they're a bit sour and bitter. But it's better than eating grilled fish every day. Watching this leisurely wilderness survival, I really can't stand them. Now, they have no worries about food or shelter. They're living too comfortably. The only thing I'm looking forward to is for Camila and Marcia to take a bath, just to cheer us up a bit. Danny and Rick are in the shelter, planning to modify the stove. Rick wanted to do it his way, but Danny shot him down. Danny is explaining his idea, and Rick is just listening like a fool. Victor and Casper are feeling very cold. The shelter isn't warm at all. They hope the fireplace can give them more warmth. Today, they plan to modify the fireplace again, otherwise, their sausages will freeze stiff at night. They wrapped the fireplace inside the shelter. Why don't they just chop some branches and surround the shelter? That would keep it warm, right? We better not interfere with their work. After all, it's not illegal for them to hit people. After Danny explained his idea to Rick, Rick just needs to do the heavy lifting. Danny treats his boyfriend like an ox, making him sit in the shelter doing nothing. Danny and Camila are both women, but Danny sits comfortably while Camila works like a dog. Marcia is cooking for her in the shelter, and Camila is chopping wood. When she stood up, she felt very dizzy and suddenly thought, this feeling is quite nice, so she stands there enjoying it until the smell of burning wakes her up. The fish in the pan is burnt. Rick is wandering around the shelter because Danny kicked him out, thinking the fireplace Rick built was ugly and deciding to build it himself. Anyway, Danny now thinks Rick is useless. Sometimes Rick really wants to cover Danny's face with moss, but he wouldn't dare. After all, it's hard to find a girlfriend, so he tolerates it day by day. Jesper has already remodeled the fireplace, wrapping the chimney with waterproof cloth. This means the fireplace is now inside the shelter. He lit the fire to test it, and it really warmed things up. Inside, it became a smokehouse for mice, and the entrance turned into a chimney. These two brothers, they're real geniuses, aren't they? While everyone else is building shelters, Martha and Camilla are busy making a doghouse. These two have no clue. It seems so obvious now, but they're arranging a willow bed. They might as well just sleep on a mat. It's the 15th day, half a month in. The weather gets colder every day. Each morning, Lassie feels the temperature drop when he goes to the bathroom. Thankfully, the wind isn't too strong, or the smell would travel for miles. After getting up, Martha starts grilling fish. A fishing net really makes things easier. Ben and Anna plan to go hiking. Seriously, who turns a survival challenge into a hiking trip? They're acting like they're on vacation. Please, go catch some fish. I'm here to comment on survival, not a travel vlog. Show some respect. Meanwhile, Rick is collecting moss, and Danny is gathering berries, their only source of vitamins. Poor Rick, he's so frustrated he just sat down and cried. Martha and Camilla, on the other hand, are having a grilled fish dinner in their shelter. It's now the 16th day, and it's starting to drizzle. The weather is getting colder, and the snow on the mountains behind them is piling up. The show's boat appeared again, and it turns out Jesper and Victor have decided to quit the competition. Their reason is simple. It's much harder than they imagined. Actually, their shelter wasn't built well enough. They had plenty of food and drink but felt really bored, so they chose to leave. What surprises will the contestants bring us next? Stay tuned for the next episode. I've never seen such a fierce woman. She came to the wilderness, took off her pants, and used a blanket to catch a cup of cola from a crack. She drank it right away. It was her first morning cola. How did she manage that? The new season of Alone in the Wilderness has started. It's now the 17th day. It rained last night, and Danny's shelter got soaked. Things are going really badly for her. Rainwater kept dripping from above because they left a wisdom window at the top. If it doesn't drip rain, will it drop cookies? Meanwhile, Lashy boasted about his cozy, dry sleep last night in his rainproof, warm shelter. Lashy was out and about early despite the rainwater everywhere. Luckily, when they built the shelter, they thought about the roof and rewrapped it with waterproof fabric, so rain isn't a problem. The wind is fierce today, making it cozier to stay inside and sleep. But Camilla has it rough. Her shelter is open, and the wind hits her face at night, making her drink a bowl of northwest wind. She needs to get rid of this wind from her body. She needs a magical potion. She went to the small woods, took off her pants, and placed a cup at the crack. In no time, she filled half a cup with the magical potion. This is her first cola of the day. How did Camilla drink that? But to expel the northwest wind from her body, she had no choice. I'm very happy because I won't have to eat that mushy stuff anymore. Cheese doesn't really taste like cheese. It has a bit of a cheese flavor, but that kind. Teammate Martha is lying in the shelter pretending to sleep. She doesn't dare wake up, fearing that Camilla might want to share her cup too. Danny is preparing to tidy up the shelter. They decided to cover the wisdom window on the shelter, otherwise the rain would drip into their heads. But usually, it's Rick who does this kind of thing. After all, Danny is a little princess. She might join you for fun, but she'd rather die than work. Rick is holding the waterproof fabric alone, not knowing where to start. If it were me, I'd just throw the waterproof fabric over Danny's head and toss her into the sea. Lashy and Emil went to check the fishing nets and noticed the mountain across was iced over. The wind and waves are fierce, and it's getting colder. The strong wind makes it tough for them to hear each other, complicating the net pulling. At this moment, they can't tell what the other is thinking as they both tug on the rope with all their strength. Fishing is tough for them, and Anna and Ben are struggling too. Talking to each other is tough. Camilla and Martha's camera keeps falling, making fishing harder. Danny's camera was directly blown over by the wind, and the lens shattered. Rick still couldn't get the waterproof fabric up. Danny had enough and went to help, grabbing a stick. Despite her efforts, they were less efficient together than alone. The reason was clear: they kept chatting and got distracted. Meanwhile, Camilla, the little carpenter, was back to chopping trees, aiming to clear the whole area. Martha lounged in the shelter, lost in thought, while Camilla toiled away. She needed to recharge in peace. Camilla was busy chopping branches to cover the tarp. Anna and Ben were rebuilding their raft. Without it, they couldn't go out to sea to fish. As a couple, they were more practical than Danny's group. Today, they caught a lot of fish. Anna was so eager to eat them raw. Others used rafts to set their nets. But Camilla was a different breed. She stripped down and waded right in, her body fat keeping her fearless. Their fishing net was tangled with too many branches. It was really tough to pull it up. If they didn't clean it up properly, the net would be useless. Anna was sitting by the shore cleaning the fish, but it was so cold that her hands and feet were stiff and she couldn't work. Everyone else was working and eating meat. Meanwhile, the two had just finished making out, and their net was empty. They were too busy kissing to catch any fish. How could they catch fish while kissing? Lashy's group came back to warm up after setting their net, and the shelter was still smoky. It was freezing outside, so Martha stayed inside, avoiding the cold, while Camilla worked on the fishing net. It was day 18. Anna was in the shelter fixing it up. She used moss to seal the cracks so the wind wouldn't blow on their heads while they slept. Camilla hadn't caught any fish for several days. She was now hungry and tired, trying to conserve energy. She sat in the shelter, going a bit nuts. The rain had been relentless for a week, making dry firewood scarce. Anna's group was the coziest now. They caught plenty of fish yesterday, enough for a few days. At least they had fish to eat daily. Eating well and sleeping was a luxury. Meanwhile, those two idiots by the shore hadn't eaten in ages. Danny saw something big in Rick's nose that looked very appetizing. She really wanted to pick it out and eat it. Rick was super helpful. He knew starving Danny wasn't great for their future kids. Eventually, Danny gave in and ate it. It tasted a bit like chocolate. Rick started pulling up the fishing net and found quite a few fish in it. Damn, they missed out. Had the chocolate too soon. Camilla got up to check the nets, hoping for some fish to eat. Fortunately, they caught 4 fish today. The hungry ones are still fishing, while the others relax by the sea. Camilla, feeling like royalty after catching the fish, saved the day. With some energy left, she started chopping wood again. Camilla has a special fondness for wood, but it's not as simple as you think. It's now the 19th day. Camilla wove a tray and hung it on the shelter's roof to store things. She's been looking for her toothbrush. Turns out Martha burned it. Lashy's gearing up to find firewood. It's been raining a ton lately. All the dry wood nearby has been used up. There are many trees around, but not much usable wood. They burn dozens of pounds of wood a day. They burn wood nearly all day, and it's crucial for survival. Camilla is worried about the wood too. Whenever Camilla works, she squats and acts bizarre. By day's end, they've gathered little wood, wasting time on her antics. Lashy spends any free time improving the shelter. It looks beautiful, like a grave from afar. Up close, it still looks like a grave. Sometimes, I don't even know what I'm narrating. The weather is good today. Anna and Ben are out setting the nets again, prioritizing fish. Camilla is fixing the only usable net. The sun is shining. Everyone feels great. Martha hasn't eaten fish in a long time and feels she can't hold on much longer. If they don't catch fish tomorrow, she might quit the competition. Camilla has done all the work. I really hope they catch some fish. Meanwhile, Lashy and Emil are bathing with hot water and towels. They bathe every 10 days now. Not bathing for 10 days might make them quite smelly to some ladies. It's now the 21st day. Rick saw 2 reindeer nearby, just 10 meters away. Unfortunately, he couldn't hunt them. Soon, the show's boat appeared again. Today is the day for the show's medical checkup. The weather is freezing and all the contestants are huddled up. The doctor thinks Annie's condition is the worst. Her hands and feet are no longer agile. The shelter is very cold. There's no food left. The doctor warned they need to fix these issues fast or they'll have to leave the competition. Danny lay straight on the bed, with no fire in the shelter, likely because they were saving firewood for the night. Rick planned to modify the stove to make it warmer. Anna's situation wasn't much better. It was also very cold in their shelter because they didn't have a stove. Camilla invited Martha to go net fishing, but Martha felt it was too cold and suggested picking blueberries instead. Camilla didn't want to sit in the shelter all day. She preferred to wander outside. Berries could provide a tasty change from eating fish every day. The two of them ate straight off the ground since kneeling or sitting didn't work. Camilla claimed she was soaking up some good vibes. Rick finally finished modifying the stove, raising the bottom with stones to allow ventilation. This should improve the burning efficiency. Hopefully, this stove will keep Danny warm tonight. Anna also started a fire in the shelter, otherwise it was too cold. Having a fire would make sleeping much better. On day 22, the Lashy brothers got up early to check the shore nets and luckily caught some fish. This time, they only got 3 fish, just enough for a day. Camilla's group also checked their nets and had some luck. This beach had a lot of wood, and they managed to catch 7 fish, enough for 2 days. Danny and Rick hadn't had fish in a long time. Their nets just snagged wood. Rick worried about Danny's health. If this kept up, they might have to quit. The Lashy brothers caught fish and started a fire to cook them. If they could eat fish daily, they could stay here a long time. From the current perspective, they seemed the most likely to win. Even though they were doing well, sleeping comfortably, and eating well, they still felt mentally sluggish. Almost all participants experienced this during survival. Hunger and poor nutrition made their minds sluggish. Camilla and Martha kept busy in the shelter by playing games with stones. They played games with stones, which was the best way to pass the time, better than making wooden toys. On the 23rd day, the weather got colder each day, and snow had covered the entire mountain. Camilla didn't want to get up, and Danny was wiped out from the cold. Why didn't she take a cue from Camilla? They need to step up and catch some fish. Now, the only fun the girls have is playing with rocks, whereas Danny used to enjoy more intimate activities. Now, they're too hungry to even think about that. They fish daily but catch nothing. It's more like starving than surviving. On the 24th day, the show's boat appeared again. Which team is going to quit this time? It's obviously Danny and Rick. They've been starving here and freezing at night. Danny's body can't take it anymore. If they stay, they could die. Quitting is the smart move. Starving here is way worse than enjoying life back home. What surprises will they bring us next? Stay tuned for the next episode. After a century, a contestant has finally turned Survivor into a vacation. Using a fishnet, they catch over 100 pounds of fish daily. They use a stone fireplace to make smoked fish that tastes unbeatable. The new season of Alone in the Wilderness is underway. It's the 23rd day, and 3 teams remain. Lashy wakes up to find many reindeer near the shelter. If only they had a bow and arrow to hunt. Catching a deer could mean eating until the show goes bankrupt. Lashy is very excited. Why he's so excited, I won't ask, she might hurl cow dung at me. The mountain is starting to freeze. Soon, it will be covered in snow. Others wake up to pee and find the urine cold. Anna strikes a death pose. After her antics, she gets to work on the chimney, but it's still not working. Smoke fills the shelter, making it hard to keep their eyes open. They think the chimney isn't tall enough. The weather is getting colder, and if they can't light a fire in the shelter, they'll freeze at night. They must solve the smoke problem quickly. They have a new plan for the chimney. Hopefully, this will fix the issue. Let's hope they succeed. Martha and Camilla are boiling water in the shelter. They are mentally prepared to quit the competition. They've been having a lot of fun during this time. They're satisfied with surviving this long in the wild. They have enough fish and firewood for 3 or 4 more days. They plan to enjoy these days first. Bean's shelter is under construction, and they need to finish it soon. Why not set the net and then work? Working without food will starve them. Their plan seems flawed. Anna is not only tired but also very hungry. From my experience, contestants who spend too much energy on the shelter don't fare well. Many quit after building their shelters due to hunger. Lashy and Emil are doing well. Their shelter isn't the best, but they balance work and food intake. Lashy goes to the shore to check the net. Catching enough fish is key to surviving longer. The net yields 3 small fish, not much, but better than nothing. Emil suddenly falls while walking, injuring his knee. Quitting now would be a huge loss. Though painful, it's not serious. Lashy finishes preparing the fish. On her way back, she also took a tumble. Talk about bad luck. Martha hasn't washed her hair in over 20 days. It's all dry and stiff now. But Camilla's even worse, she hasn't changed her underwear once. Martha was horrified when she found out. No wonder their sleeping area reeks. These 2 girls are definitely more complex than we thought. As the weather gets colder, they head to the shore to gather firewood. The mountains are blanketed in snow. Martha and Camilla sit romantically by the shore, proving they don't need men. No one would dare marry these 2 nutcases. Anna and Bean are too starved to move and are craving a meal right now. They'd kill for a buffet at home. I just don't get why they won't fish if they're starving. They'd rather wait to die than go fishing with a net. Camilla plans to change her underwear today. Finally, after waiting so long, the moment has come. Camilla stands in front of the camera and starts taking off her pants piece by piece. I never expected her underwear to be such big shorts. After over 20 days of waiting, it was a letdown. She even sniffed them, and the stench nearly floored her. I just don't get these contestants sometimes. Although Lashy's team is also acting crazy, they are the most diligent in getting food. They collect some berries in the wild, aiming to balance their daily nutrition. They stockpile firewood too. Lashy takes another big spill. This can't go on. Lashy just fell, and now Emil has taken a tumble too. What's going on? Is bad luck running in the family? Today doesn't seem ideal for work. They opt to head back and rest early, thinking their bodies might be signaling them. Or maybe it's just the frequent physical labor. They ponder today's falls, and no one dares to say the place is haunted. Anna and Bean made a large tripod. They put it inside their shelter and covered it with a waterproof cloth. What are these 2 up to? Weren't they fixing the chimney? How did it become a shelter project? It's already day 24. Camilla and Martha hiked west early in the morning to gather stones as souvenirs before heading home. Each of them picked a stone. I can't say if they look good or not. Lashy woke up early and sat on a stone, saying he wanted to eat something. Emil mentioned he's had trouble sleeping for 2 nights and is beginning to miss his family. Anna's struggling too. No surprise there. They used up all their energy chopping wood but still haven't fixed the smoke issue in their shelter, making all their efforts pointless. Looking at their condition, it's clear they're about to quit. Camilla built an altar at the shelter's entrance, thinking it would give her endless motivation. As for what kind of motivation, I didn't dare ask. I'm afraid she might use those underwear she's worn for over 20 days to smoke me out. She even thinks the altar's power isn't enough. She went out and picked a red mushroom to boost her strength. Sometimes, I really can't understand the contestants' actions. After breakfast, Emil headed to the shore to wash the pot. She saw the mountains getting covered in snow. The temperature is dropping fast. Camilla thinks it's likely just their team left now and feels they have a good chance of winning. Maybe she's just bored out of her mind. She figures if the other teams don't starve in a week, they'll win. They don't miss their families since they always work and live together, plus none of them have boyfriends. So, being in the wilderness or at home makes no difference to them. Anna keeps tinkering with the chimney in the shelter. But nothing they try works. Why not fish more? Eating and sleeping well daily sounds great, right? They spend the whole day chopping wood, even though there's already a big pile around the shelter. I don't get why they're so obsessed with the chimney. It just doesn't make sense. Why make it so tall here? Lighting a fire will still smoke them out. And look how it ended up. Do they think this will solve the smoke problem? Lashy caught a lot of fish today and got plenty of fish roe. Fish roe is very nutritious, but it's better cooked. Emil and her team aren't too obsessed with the chimney issue. When they start a fire, they simply open the roof. The fish roe in the pot looks delicious as they fry it up. Cooked fish roe tastes delicious, like eating boiled eggs. Anna is also testing the salt and onion effect. When the fire is big, it doesn't seem very salty. They also fried a pot of fish. Wow, these 2 guys didn't show the fishing scene. This sudden fish meat, I thought they borrowed it from Lashy's team. After a busy day, Bean and Anna start enjoying today's dinner, feeling hungry. The fish tastes delicious. It's great to have food in their stomachs. On the 25th day, Martha woke up feeling very cold. They light a fire in the shelter to stay warm, drinking hot water daily. Camilla still believes they have a good shot at winning. Lashy woke up shivering, and the shelter's exterior is freezing, showing just how cold it is. They hang the fish outside to keep it fresh. Anna and Bean, after waking up, head to the shore to fish. Bean's water catching method is working great. Meanwhile, Martha and Camilla check their nets but only catch one fish, while Bean is reeling them in non-stop. Fish are coming up one after another in the net. This time, they caught 20 fish, enough to last them for weeks. Lashy's pulling in the net and has caught a bunch of fish. Looks like everyone's having a great catch today. Lashy and his team are smoking today's catch along with yesterday's leftovers, aiming to turn it all into smoked fish. Lashy skillfully threads the fish onto sticks, showing off his smoking skills, and hangs them over the fireplace. Emil gathers a lot of branches nearby, mainly to create thick smoke. Once the fish is ready, they start the fire. Once the fire is lit, he adds a layer of pine needles, which enhances the flavor of the smoked fish. The high heat and thick smoke do the rest. After waiting for an hour or two, it will be ready. Meanwhile, Martha has only caught one fish. That's hardly enough to eat. While others are reeling in plenty, they're just scraping by. They survive on body fat, mostly peeing or sleeping all day. Lashy's team has finished smoking the fish, which is now a beautiful golden color, crispy outside and tender inside, absolutely delicious. The larger fish are still smoking. Right now, they seem to have the best setup. Their main rivals are likely Anna and Bean. Meanwhile, Martha and Camilla are just drinking water to keep hunger at bay. They pray the wind dies down tomorrow, otherwise they'll have to quit if they can't catch any fish. Sleepless, they sing nursery rhymes in their sleeping bags. The more they act like kids, the better. On the 26th day, Anna and Bean head to the shore daily to catch fish. This time, Anna decided to set up the fish net, but she lost the stone weights while doing it. Without the weights, the fishnet keeps floating, so they need to reattach stones. Seriously, they can't get anything right. They just sit by the heater, leaving their boyfriend to fix everything. Bean had to handle everything solo, redoing the setup before placing the net. Thankfully, this time, it went off without a hitch. Today, Camilla drank her urine for the last time after doing it for 14 days straight. Seriously, I can't believe it. I honestly can't fathom the contestants' actions sometimes. Even Martha won't stop Camilla, afraid she might make her drink urine too. Drinking the first morning urine for 2 weeks straight? That guy actually did it and felt more energized afterward. Martha's too scared to refuse Camilla now. Anna's team eats well and chops wood, with their shelter already surrounded by trees. They've transformed the area into a mini wilderness garden. Fortunately, they caught plenty of fish yesterday, enough to last a while. Even with fish to eat, they still feel very tired from working. They plan to hold out until day 30. If they haven't won by then, they might quit the competition. On the 27th day, Lashy and Emil are in great spirits. They have plenty of food and shelter and don't miss their families. At least they're more lively than Anna's team. They haul in loads of fish daily with their 2 nets, so food is never a concern. Martha and Camilla fail at fishing, so they munch on wild berries daily. Afterward, they sit by the rocks and act nuts to kill time. Anna decided to make some small toys, which required wood, so she picked the biggest tree to chop down. Is she doing this to pass the time or to make toys? Chopping down a tree is exhausting. At this point, every contestant feels physically drained. They're losing enthusiasm for life here and starting to feel increasingly bored. I bet someone will go home soon. What surprises will they bring me next? Looking forward to the next episode's update. The incredible girl in the survival show and her thrill-seeking little brother, they invent a new stunt daily that would terrify even a crocodile. The new season of Alone in the Wild is underway, and it's already day 27 with just 3 teams remaining. Martha is busy fixing up her shelter. She had a mishap while foraging and fell into a pit, losing her pants in the process. Camilla was tasked with collecting firewood. Outside the shelter, underwear was hanging all over. Camilla suggested Martha wear her unwashed underwear from the past 20 days. Martha couldn't refuse, so she had to put it on, but unexpectedly, Martha, who was wearing Camilla's pants, also began to become angry. She was shaking her butt by the fire, and I swear those pants had some kind of magic. Only Camilla could handle them. Martha was restless, and Lashy and Emil were acting strange, using their underwear to wash their faces. Honestly, they might have been better off not washing at all. Even after washing, their hands stayed dirty because they used them to wipe their butts, and the poop particles just wouldn't come off. If you usually wipe with your hands, be mindful of your technique. Use the back of your hand so you can still hold food with your palm. Anna's been chopping wood for 2 days straight. Exhausted and hungry, she sulks and makes her boyfriend guess what's wrong. Dian kept quiet, chopping the tree to kill time. Anna had been at it since yesterday. It was clear he was in a standoff with Anna. After finishing with the tree, he had no idea what to do next. But everyone has their breaking point. Dian gave up, leaving Anna to chop wood alone while Lashy checked the fishing nets. Getting this far was a big deal. She aimed to stick it out till the end. These days, she and Emil mostly chatted about food. As long as they have enough food, they can stick it out longer. Anna's now at the shore, prepping to cast the net for fish. A boat appeared in the distance. Hunters have been showing up lately, but it doesn't impact their challenge. It's nice to see other people coming here, at least it won't be so boring. Anna and Bien are frying fish by the shore. Eating this dry fish every day must be getting old for them, even though there's plenty of food now. But it is indeed quite dull. Lashy and Emil, though, stay upbeat and keep laughing. In the final stages, mindset is key. The one with the stronger mindset will endure. Martha and Camilla, those two crazies, haven't caught any fish. They've made it this far on sheer optimism, water, and even urine. It's day 28, nearly a month. Lashy is thrilled. Martha and Camilla are about to quit. See that wooden figure in the shelter? That's Camilla's toy she found while scavenging at night. Lashy is going wild on camera with Emil, who stays silent, scared this maniac might hit him. He figured Lashy either had a brain fart or inhaled too much shelter smoke. They hauled in a ton of fish today. They haul in hundreds of pounds of fish daily, far more than they can consume. Too bad they only know how to smoke it. If they knew how to make pickled, spicy, or boiled fish, it would be even better. I hate how they never stress about food or drink. Their shelter is piled high with firewood. If it rains, they can basically stay inside for days. The smoked fish in their shelter is enough to last them over 10 days. Surviving in the wilderness looks easy for them. Meanwhile, Martha and Camilla are checking their nets. They finally snagged a fish in the net and went absolutely nuts. They were acting all crazy over just one fish. Is it really worth all that excitement? After eating, Camilla was back in the shelter, carving wood again. She's quite the character. It's getting harder for them. Despite having ways to fish and a decent shelter, survival here is still really tough. They feel their relationship is on the rocks, always bickering over small stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if they split up after this. Emil realized his breath was terrible, and brushing twice daily didn't help. Maybe it's from eating fish all the time. His breath stank of fish. Despite having enough firewood, they still went out daily to gather more. Once winter sets in, they won't need to go out anymore. A helicopter flew overhead. It must be hunters tracking moose. They also came out to explore. Yesterday, hunters killed a moose here. The helicopter was searching for the moose. Anna and Bien wanted in on the action and were sneaking around. To avoid being spotted by the hunters, they had to crawl on the ground. They found a moose lying down, while a helicopter hovered nearby, searching. They crept over and found a spinning top skin and a lot of entrails here, and the meat was probably taken away by the hunters. Actually, there was a lot of meat on this head that could be eaten, and Anna and Bien took it away in a bag with a dew heart and a liver. It's been going to keep them eating for a long time, and it's better and more nutritious than fish, and just as they want to keep cutting their heads, the helicopter comes again. They had no choice but to leave quickly. As for their actions, I won't comment. Is it fair to the other contestants? You guys can share your thoughts in the comments. Camilla carved a massive wooden, well, you know, the shape and size of it. I bet it made a lot of guys feel inadequate. Camilla even roped Martha into making these wooden things. The size difference between their creations. The size difference is just too much. Camilla's wooden figure, especially in the Big Bay area, isn't her first carving. There are already several of them lying around. She carves one almost every day for fun, so she can experience a new boyfriend each day. Lashy eats fish daily and hikes to the back mountain for berries to get his vitamins. At that moment, the doctor appeared and asked how they were. Emil complained about being fed up with eating so many goldfish lately. At the final checkup, Lashy had shed a lot of weight. The doctor told him to eat more and avoid further weight loss. It didn't seem serious at first, but the doctor's concern made Lashy nervous. Meanwhile, Anna was still savoring the delicious moose liver. She hadn't had any protein besides fish in ages, so this big pot of liver looked incredibly appetizing after a month of nothing but fish. The pot of liver was a real treat, and they happily ate by the shore. Camilla enjoyed the small fish she caught, even though it was just a bit of meat. But it was still tasty. Camilla played with the wooden dummy today and feels great, having had her fun. They think today's food haul was pure luck. As they eat, they discuss their fear of being spotted by hunters. Right now, Lashy's group has the most food. The shelter is packed with hanging fish. On the 29th morning, Martha wakes early and pees for Camilla to drink. She noticed a lot of fog around, and the weather was getting colder. Anna had a very comfortable night because they had a big feast the day before. Now she's feeling much better. Meanwhile, Lashy kicked off his day by chowing down on fish. He's aiming to bulk up, so he has several fish for breakfast. That's quite a treat. After breakfast, Lashy went back to the shelter where Emil was still asleep. Emil said he had a headache. Lashy boiled some water for him. At this critical juncture, losing any teammate would be a real shame. Camilla and Martha took the leftover fish bones to the shore. They planned to use these bones to bathe, and then they stripped down and got into the water. Bathing in this cold? They must be crazy, but it's entertaining. The show's boat showed up again. Who's quitting? The camera panned, and wow, those two maniacs burned their shelter down. No wonder they just went to bathe. They were gearing up to quit. I always knew these two were unique. They haven't changed their underwear in a month. Each day, they craft wooden toys, bathe with fish bones, and set their shelter on fire. As long as Camilla's happy, it's fine. Let her be as wild as she wants. Camilla and Martha may be a bit loony, but their survival and building skills are excellent. It's way better than some rookies who constantly miss their families and want to go home. Lashy has been eating fish non-stop. Emil felt heavy when he woke up, probably coming down with a fever. These two brothers are my top picks. Don't mess things up now, just hold on a bit longer and you'll win. Anna and Bien went fishing as usual. They caught 4 fish today, while Lashy's side had no luck. The first net came up empty, which is very rare. The second net only caught 1 fish. No fish? Then let's gather more berries. After all, in critical times, berries can sustain you for a long time. Lashy quickly collected a big bag of berries, enough to last them 5 or 6 days. Meanwhile, Bien had a great day, catching 18 fish, adding the moose liver from the other day. They have no worries about food and drink. On the 30th day, the wind was very strong, and it felt freezing. After waking up, Lashy made some hot water for Emil, who looked pretty sick. Lashy was torn about whether to keep going. The show's boat appeared again. Who was quitting the competition? It turned out Anna and Bien were leaving. I was really surprised. They had the most mistakes, but their situation had improved. Why quit now? Lashy and Emil have this championship in the bag. With Anna and Bien out, their win is inevitable. Lashy wandered outside the shelter while Emil slept until noon and felt much better, probably just a cold. But Lashy was in great shape. She boiled another pot of water to bathe. Her bathing method was very simple. Just wiping with a towel. Days passed and Emil finally recovered. They were in great shape now. As usual, they headed to the shore to check the fishing nets. Suddenly, the show's boat appeared. It was obvious they had one. Lashy and Emil's victory was well deserved. They built a solid shelter and tirelessly gathered firewood every day. They also went fishing daily. Their efforts could have kept them going indefinitely. When the crew told them they had one, they were over the moon. They were in shock. And that's a wrap for Alone, Denmark edition. For more wilderness survival content, please follow me. See you next time.